Welcome, Flip Clock fans. In a previous video, we introduced you to a clock we claimed is lost to history, the Josef Pallweber rolling wheel pendulum clock. Our claim was that this clock, manufactured around 1890, must now be considered the first rolling wheel clock, taking that title from Frederick A. Greenewalt, who described his invention of a rolling wheel clock on March 10, 1933. This makes Josef Pallweber of Austria the inventor of the first marketable digital clock, the first digital pocket watch, the first flip clock, and the first rolling wheel clock. Background: Austrian Josef Pallweber on September 8, 1888 described his invention of a rolling wheel clock which he called clock with jumping numbers.
Uhr mit springenden Zahlen.
The patent was issued in Germany on August 13, 1889, and a functioning model produced around 1890 in Germany. But can this claim that this is an unknown clock lost to history hold up to scrutiny? And is this clock worth a small fortune? Who would know? How about a clock specialist from Europe who is a freeman of the Worshipful Company of Clockmakers, a member of the Antiquarian Horological Society, member of the British Horological Institute, where he was trained as a watchmaker, a man who studied clock restoration at the world-renowned West Dean College of Arts and Conservation in West Sussex, and who also happens to currently operate one of the last remaining traditional antique clock retail shops with full restoration workshops in London, a horologist who worked for Christie's Auctioneers as a clock specialist from 2007 until 2011, and who currently serves as a clock specialist on Antiques Roadshow in the United Kingdom. I have just described to you Alistair Chandler. David Molyneux of East Sussex, England, owner of this Pallweber clock, arranged to have his clock appraised by the Antiques Roadshow at a ticketed event in Crystal Palace Park, London Borough of Bromley, on June 4, 2023. This is where Mr. Molyneux sat down with Alistair Chandler to discuss this clock. This would be a pre-show meeting to see if the clock would be of interest for inclusion on the show. It seemed to be a pleasant meeting that Sunday afternoon, but right out of the box, Mr. Chandler states, "I've never seen one before." That speaks volumes about this clock in light of Alistair's background. Chandler indicates that the clock reminds him of the American calendar clocks with the rolling months' days. When Mr. Molyneux tries to explain the significance of Pallweber, with whom the specialist seems to be unacquainted, in his connection to the first flip clock, Alistair mentions the Plato clock by description. He discusses the fact that the Queen of England had a bust clock with the time displayed in the eyes. He also discusses a book by Derek Roberts which covers so-called mystery clocks, a description often used for many various novelty clocks, put out for the masses essentially. So there it is, put in the nicest way possible. Alistair Chandler, clearly a distinguished clock specialist, would classify this clock as a novelty clock, of little value horologically speaking. I've been aware of this sentiment from American horologists for some time as it relates to flip clocks, including the Plato clocks. They're not seen as true classic timepieces and are considered simply as novelty clocks built for the masses. Here's the thing, this Pallweber clock, when new, was clearly not a quality timepiece. Other clocks of this era are not only works of art, but are often precise, exquisite timepieces. This Pallweber clock is not that. It's more akin to a cuckoo clock. Consider why Alistair probably did not price the clock or recommend it for inclusion on the show. For a clock to be worth a small fortune, it must have certain characteristics. Rarity. Clearly, this is a rare clock, previously unknown to people interested in the digital display of time. Quality. The clock presents in wonderful shape for the time period. You have to give it that. And finally, and most importantly, desirability. The clock fails here. It is not a clock anyone is looking for. It's not going to complete a museum's collection. It is a curiosity to most. We must also accept that Josef Pallweber, while known to a degree in clock circles for his jump-hour pocket watches, is not generally considered to have been an exceptional clockmaker or his work pivotal in horology. Now, Pallweber is a huge deal to me, owing to his development of the first flip clock. I think very highly of him. I love to have one of his flip clocks, and I certainly would like to own this jumping number clock. But no matter what we feel as flip clock fans, this Pallweber clock will not currently command high prices. It's not worth a small fortune and likely never will be. Who knows though, flip clocks have made a huge surge in popularity and the possibility of increase in value is there. Not millions, not tens of thousands, but someday $1,000 or more for this clock will not be unexpected. In time. That is, if its place in clock history becomes more widely known. So there it is, a highly experienced horologist does not see the value in this Pallweber clock. but he seems like a great guy nonetheless. I greatly appreciate Mr. Molyneux going out of his way to help get this clock noticed. At least one high-level horologist has now been exposed to the truth. This could possibly increase the knowledge of this clock. As for me, I'd buy it in a second. Thanks for taking the time.